and sharing. I learned that. Remember the Soupy Sales commercial? Did you learn today? Sharing. You're not old enough. Yes.
Welcome.
Thank you so much.
We're going to pass, excuse us.
Oh.
And he gleaned from your sermon.
Oh.
Maybe 12 in a couple of weeks.
And where does he live?
They live in Downingtown. And they're
Where's that?
Downingtown, Pennsylvania.
I don't know where that is. So that's far away.
An hour and a half away.
Okay.
I had it for the weekend.
So I won't be blessed with being his bar mitzvah rabbi.
No, unfortunately, they're not doing any of that.
Okay.
It's a mixed marriage. My daughter went through everything here, and they're choosing not to. But he said she hated the service. He said it was kind of interesting sitting in, and he says, and he appreciated me singing along and all that. As he's playing on his phone, what he did, you know. But he,
Well, tell him next time he's here, we're gonna have.
he's
I understand that.
okay.
I'm good with kids.
No, you said coffee, right?
Oh, he doesn't drink coffee. Okay, I'll have coffee. He'll have a soda.
That's what I thought. So,
Okay. Well, thank you.
And welcome to Harrisburg. And,
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And
Glad you're here. I
I'm blessed to
enjoyed
be
your
here.
service as well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Only one. I hope I go 2 for 2. Thank you.
And I like your little blurb, you know, that you sent out in email. Very honest.
Oh,
So I look forward to hearing about your bar mitzvah.
I'm very honest. Sometimes brutally too much.
You're welcome.
Where did I go? I'm Mark. Thank you. Yes.
I want you to meet Marge Sherman. She's my talker.
I talk. God bless her. She keeps talking, you know.
You know, rather, have a talker than not talker.
Amen.
As long as the words are all right.
Amen. I've got 2 minutes. No, it's really been very down home nice, and I appreciate that a lot.
Well, I certainly feel that way. I think I told you.
Yeah, and I appreciate it's all good.
The hallway
Underneath.
be right on the right side.
All right, I'll remember this week.
Okay.
God be good. Do you have announcements? Because I wasn't given.
No, no one gave me any.
Come up and just greet people and tell them what you know is happening.
Okay.
Is that okay?
That works.
All right. My pleasure. Thank you very much. It's been frenetic and wonderful. Okay? And you're going to probably have to remind me at some point your name again, but I appreciate that. Thank you. blessed every day. And And when I get moved here in 2 weeks, then I'll really be blessed. Of course, that's when the fun will really start trying to unpack, and Lori wants to renovate. And sometime the next year, I'll get settled. Until then, we'll keep going. Okay. It's like someone said, you grew up in Vegas? I said, no, I matriculated from high school. I don't know if I ever grew up. Thanks, Ruth. Shabbat shalom. Are you ready? She's watching live stream. So. Good Shabbos, everyone. For everyone here and everyone watching on live stream, last week I was told, Shnia, that means Hebrew for 1 second. No? Okay. So last week I was told that I wasn't loud enough. You know, I don't get accused of not being loud enough. I'm a recovering lawyer. But we've turned up the microphones and we have found the lavalier, and so I can actually move around and it won't affect too much. But you know, if you need something or if I'm not being clear, just please let me know. Is that fair? So we're going to start with two pieces musically, and then we're going to light our candles. So you're stuck standing with me, if that's okay, for a little bit.
Would you rather that I...
No, it's great.
And you met that
Tov. So with that, Sarah, thank you for being here. You know, and Conrad up Oregon, we have. It's been really great for the last several weeks having the teamwork to make sure that we take care of each other in putting together worship. So with that, we're going to begin, I guess, on page 138 with the Chadodi. I love when I get that right.
לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. 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 שמור וזכור בדיבור אחד, ישמיענו אליך מיוחד. אדוני אחד ושמו אחד, לשם ולתפארת ולתהילה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. בואי ושלום עטרת בעלה, גא בשמחה וצהלה. תוך אמונוה עם סגולה, בואי חלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
So we're going to see if anyone was paying attention last week, okay? So how many of you saw the angels in your window before you came here? All right? Were good things happening in your home as you prepared for Shabbat? Then we're going to call the guardian angels, the Malachei HaSha'aret, to wish us a wonderful Shabbat together. We're on page 142.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei HaSha'aret, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech Malachei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boechem L'Shalom, Malachei עוני לשלום, מלאכי השלום, מלאכי עליון. מי מלך מלאכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. צאתם לשלום, מלאכי השלום, מלאכי עליון. מי מלך מלאכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא.
We set the week aside. We are going to light candles. We're on page 120. You got it.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kichanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lahakriyo shel Shabbat. Blessed are you, Adonai our God, sovereign of the universe, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to kindle the light of Shabbat.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lechad lekner shel Shabbat.
Thank you. You want to take? You can take the book with you if you want. We have plenty. Okay. We have set ourselves aside from the week that has been, and we're in this joyous moment with each other. If you will take just a couple minutes and stand or sit, whichever you'd like, but look around you. And if there's someone you haven't seen in a while, greet them, wish them a Shabbat Shalom. If you have seen them, you can still do it. You have my permission. Okay? But let's make sure that we appreciate everyone being here.
Hi, Bunny.
How are we doing? Are we doing okay so far? You're great. You're great. Okay, so here's a test. You need to make sure if there's someone you didn't greet, before you leave tonight, you need to find that person or those people and make sure that you do. Okay? Fair? Good. So we are going to continue on page 144 with Chatzi Kaddish. And then after that, I'm going to ask that you rise as we move into Baruch Hu.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, ויעמד יברח יורתי וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב, ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך, לעלם עלמי עלמיה, יתברך וישתבח, ויתפאר וינברם וינשא, ויתהדר ויתהלל ויתהלל, שמי דקודשה בריחו, לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה תאמירן בימה, ואמרו אמן.
Those who can or choose, please rise.
Baruch hu et Adonai hamevorach. Baruch Adonai hamevorach leolam vaed.
Page 151 at the bottom, please join me. Wisdom and wonder, passion and instruction, story and symbol. All these things your Torah gives to us. And the more we devote ourselves to it, the more it grows and gives. What could be a truer token of your abiding love than this holiest of your works and the living language that gives it form? Baruch atah Adonai Ohev Amo Yisrael. We continue with Shema.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed.
Please be seated.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך. ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם. בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיהם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
154. No, I'm sorry, that was 154, 157. We'll read responsively, please. In a world torn by violence and pain, a world far from wholeness and peace, give us the courage to say, Adonai, there is one God in heaven and earth.
High heavens declare your glory, may earth reveal your justice and love.
From bondage in Egypt we were delivered at Sinai, we bound ourselves to your way.
Inspired by prophets and instructed by sages, time and again we overcame oppressive forces.
Though our failings are many, our faults are great, it has been our glory to bear witness to our God, keeping alive in dark ages your vision of a world redeemed.
Nations will be one and at peace. Only shall we rejoice as Israel did, singing on the shores of the sea. Yam bam ba 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 bi ba ya ba 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 bim bam ya bam ba 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 bi ba ya ba 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 bim bam ay 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 ya ba 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 bim bam ay 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 ya ba 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 bim bam mi kamocha nedar Adonai mi kamocha nedar bakodesh norati loto sefele norati loto sefele bam 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 ba bi ba ya ba 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 bim bam 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 ba bi ba ya ba 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 bim bam ay 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 ya ba 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 bim bam ay 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 ya ba 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 bim bam.
So we ask that this day of Shabbat be a day of rest and respite. And many of us are going to go home to our homes and our families, and yet we know that there are people in this world who don't have the home or the family to join with after whatever happens to them during the day. And their nights are spent in the same outdoors that they spend the rest of their time. They don't have the love, they don't have the family, they don't have the support. And so the concept of Hashki Venu, that Sukkot Shalom, we should ask God to help us create this shelter of peace, not just in the sense of ending war and strife in the world, but to take care of providing people literally homes, to provide people the shelter that they need so that they can thrive. That too is incumbent upon us as people when we think of L'takei neta olam, to repair the world is to put the pieces in place. And one of the most essential pieces is to make sure that everyone has the basic needs for existence. This day of Shabbat helps to take a step back from our daily lives and our routines and our calendars and our cell phones and all of that stuff that distracts us so that we can focus on the blessing of being, and so that we can focus on the blessings that other people need to be, and we become the instruments of making that happen in their lives. So as we celebrate Shabbat with Vishamru, we're not just thanking God that we get this day off. It's that we get this time to renew and to restore, hoping that next week we've done the work so that there's Shabbat for everyone, where everybody can dwell in peace and in security. We're on page 162.
Vishamru bnei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. Vishamru bnei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. Beni uvein bnei Yisrael oti leolam, oti leolam. Vishamru bnei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. Ki sheshet yamim Adonai et hashamayim ve'et haaretz veshameru bnei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. Ubayom hashvi Shabbat vayinafash, Shabbat vayinafash, Shabbat vayinafash. Vishamru bnei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam.
Before we rise spiritually or physically for tefillah, I'd like you to take a deep, deep breath and hold it for just a second. And then as you exhale, in your heart speak words of thanks for that blessing. And we continue with tefillah. Those who can, please rise.
Adonai sifatai tiftachu fi agi tehilatecha. Eternal God, open my lips that my mouth may declare your glory. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, El Hagadol, Hagibor, V'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei Hakol, V'Zocher Hasdei Avot V'Imachot, V'Vi Geula Livnei V'Nechem, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה.
We're on page 170. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יעללוך הסלע. Baruch atah Adonai ha'el hakadosh. You are holy, your name is holy, and those who are holy praise you every day. Praised are you, Adonai, the holy God. Please be seated. On top of 173, please join me. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. And may all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. And may this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah. Ever-present one, may we, your people Israel, be worthy in our deed. 78.
Tasim leolam, shalom rav Yisrael amcha, tasim leolam. Ki ata hu melech adon, lechol hashalom. Ki ata hu melech adon, lechol hashalom. Shalom rav al Yisrael amcha, tasim leolam. Shalom rav al Yisrael amcha, tasim leolam. V'tov ba'einecha livarech et amecha Yisrael bechol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. שלום רב ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. שלום רב ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם.
Again, take a deep, deep breath and hold it for a second. And as you slowly let it out, take a few moments to think about the blessings that you're experiencing, the blessings you want to experience and share with others, and the ways in which we can touch the world. So, the word Israel. Any takers, what does it really mean? People who wrestle with God. Jacob wrestles with the angel, and his name is changed. Well, it doesn't really change because we still call him Jacob. Okay? But he gets another title, an entitlement that's called somebody who wrestles with God. So it's people of faith. A colleague of mine, Arthur Waskow, wrote a book, God Wrestling, and then there's the sequel, God Wrestling 2. But the idea is that faith is what happens when we walk outside of ourselves. And so when we sing a prayer, a Mishaberach prayer of healing, it's never just about the people we know. It's about the people we know and the people we don't know, but who still need that extra whatever it is to make them more whole, spiritually, physically, emotionally. And so it becomes incumbent upon us to include them in our prayers, whether they're halfway around the world, whether it's because of fighting that even they have caused, or whether it's the illnesses or the injuries or the exhaustion from taking care of people. So as we are about to sing a Misha Berach prayer for healing, as we ask God to make us instruments of healing, we have to think beyond the phone calls that we know to make and beyond the visits we know to make. And it's that random act of kindness. We go up to someone we've never seen before and say, I hope you're having a great day. And you know what? Usually that makes their day better. It's going to the coffee shop and paying forward, paying for yours and for the next person. So when the next person comes in, their day is made more whole because that coffee is paid for. My wife did that when we moved to New Jersey at a place, and she came back later for a cup of coffee and found that it lasted several hours. Someone came in and, oh, it's great. Well, let me pay for the next person's. Right? So these are the things that we do that change people's lives. So I don't have the name of anybody that I know that we know is ailing, although I am sure that you're holding people, and if you want to share names, please do so. And if you want me to share names from the pulpit, please let me know in advance, and I'll be happy to do that. Because you know what? None of us have too many people praying on our behalf. And I don't know that God says 15 people prayed, you get well, 14 you don't. But I do know that if people know they're being thought of, the odds of healing skyrocket. So if there's names you'd like to share now, please do so. If not, we still will go ahead and do so. And that cacophony for that moment, it reminds us how many people are truly in need. And so we think about all of the people in the world who are suffering from whatever the malady, from whatever the exhaustion, and we ask God to help us bring healing into their world.
May the source of strength who blessed the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Mi sheberach imotenu mekor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuach shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
Thank you. So here's a moment of true bravery. Chazon Yeshayahu ben Amos asher chaza al Yehuda v'Yerushalayim. It's enough. That was my Haftarah 49 years ago. And as I said earlier, I learned it the night before, quite literally. Dr. Graziani, wherever you are in the heavens above, you've earned every set of wings that you have. When I went back to the synagogue for my 10-year high school reunion, and I took my late wife to see where I grew up and was thrown out of, I actually asked to meet the rabbi and the cantor. They had both left and were selling real estate. And the question I've always carried with me, was it because of me? So, for all who want to know the rest of the story, that's the rest of the story. I was thrown out, and it's by some act of God that I found my way back. But it's actually fortuitous that that those things were coincident in time, if there is such a thing. It happens a lot, but because Isaiah, the prophet for this Haftarah, is really angry. God is angry. Just to share the vision concerning Judah and Jerusalem that Isaiah, the son of Amos, saw during the reigns of Uzziah, Jotham, Ahaz, Hezekiah, kings of Judah. Hear, O heavens, listen, O earth, for the Lord has spoken. I reared children and brought them up, but they have rebelled against me. The ox knows its master, the donkey its owner's manger, but Israel does not know. My people don't understand. A sinful nation, a people loaded with guilt, a brood of evildoers, children given to corruption. They have forsaken God. They have spurned the Holy One of Israel and turned their backs. A little later it gets worse. Hear the word of God, you rulers of Sodom. Listen to the law of our God, you people of Gomorrah. The multitude of your sacrifices, what are they to me, says God? I have more than enough of burnt offerings of rams and the fat of fattened animals. I have no pleasure in the blood of bulls and lambs and goats. When you come to appear before me, who asked this of you, trampling my courts? Stop bringing meaningless offerings. Your incense is detestable to me. New moons, Sabbaths, convocations, your celebrations, I can't bear your evil assemblies. And it goes on. So, God's not happy. What's been happening? Well, we've all figured out that, as we see way too often, that people have lost their way. There were lots of folks running around performing rituals, proclaiming the word of the Lord, spouting religion, including the people they want and excluding the people they don't want from God. Sound familiar? Yeah. So, I have no idea what God is. God has never tapped me on the shoulder and said, Mark, I'm 5'9", I hate dill pickles, And I say that somewhat tongue-in-cheek, but Maimonides says that it's blasphemy for us to say what God is. And it borders on blasphemy for us to say what God isn't. Because how can we, with our human limitations, begin to think about describing something that, A, is responsible for our creation, but is beyond anything we can imagine? And the number of people who proclaim to be uber-religious, who are putting God into their box as if they own God, is nothing short of obscene. I think Isaiah was onto something. I wonder how many people espousing religious labels, telling people what God wants and doesn't want, how many of those people really understand that underneath all of it is supposed to be faith? See, I don't use the term interfaith because I think there's a faith in God, and I think it plays out in the different religions. I think about interreligious. But so many people are caught up in the religion and the label of the religion and some of the dogma that they know about that they forgot the underpinning of a faith which is supposed to be universal, which holds us all together. the indignance, the dismissal, the making it up as they go along, even within our own Jewish world. And I'm closing my eyes because I don't want to see whose feathers I'm about to ruffle. The number of times I hear, we're really reform, we don't do that. Okay, now I can look again. Reform is about informed choice. It's not about what you do or don't do. There are Reformed Jews who are Shomer Shabbat, who keep strictly kosher. Okay? It's about accepting the responsibility and the freedom to be autonomous in the decisions that you make. So you're not really Reform if you don't do something. In fact, I would argue that that's what Orthodox, ultra-Orthodoxy does, because they do everything their Rebbe tells them to do, and they don't sway one way or the other. And so there's no individual thought, no independent I and thou, as Martin Buber put it, in that relationship with faith. And the same thing is true you can find across the denominational world, where you have people who are espousing, this is who I am, or this is who I'm not, based on the things I do. I have a dear, dear friend, Joel Hafer, who is now, and I'm jealous, a retired Episcopal priest, who, when he moved from Florence, South Carolina, to Hendersonville, North Carolina, and I went to see him, he said, I've got 300 Episcopalians in my church. I think 50 of them are Christian. Okay? And I believe it begins with education. And the devolution of faith begins with the failure of education. And let's play this out in the public schools for just a moment, outside of a religious context. 2 + 2 equals? Give me a different correct answer. You all just look at me. 5 - 1 is a different correct answer, absolutely. There's an infinite number of correct answers to 2 + 2 equals, and yet we are so locked into 4. How about 2 + 2 = 22? Or 2 + 2 = 0. 2 apples plus 2 bananas equal how many oranges? Okay? And so when you get so locked into that there's an answer, that's where we lose track of what the possibilities of faith are all about. The ability for a Jacob to wrestle with God and say, I've traveled this land and wow, I had no idea God was here. God wrestling. But it begins with understanding that we have to know something about who we are and who we can be. And if we go back into the religious world, how many of us have heard people say, I'm not going to accuse anybody, don't know you all well enough, but have heard people say, oh yeah, my kid's bar mitzvah, I don't need religious school anymore, I don't need the temple anymore. I got my transaction. Or how many people say, well, the holidays, those are for the kids. Without realizing that every biblical story was written for adults. Queen Esther, that story, how many of you read chapters 8, 9, and 10 of Queen Esther? It's really horrific. Okay? Now, that's homework, by the way. Okay? So, there's so much in all religious traditions that we just gloss over because we wear the labels, but we don't necessarily know who we are and what we stand for. And so we can be religious. We can jump through all of the hoops, as Isaiah was telling the people, they were jumping through all the hoops, but without value. And we do know, across the religious world, that where we forget to put value and faith into the equation of how we educate not just our children, but our adults and our whole community, people don't come back because there's nothing there that engages them. Faith is the stuff that keeps us secure in who we are. And by the way, it's the stuff that makes us secure enough so that we can walk with other people who walk different paths and never feel threatened and never feel the need to argue or convince. I've been blessed with some incredible opportunities in my life. Reverend Fred Reese and Reverend Bert Wilson, may they both rest in peace, Fred was the District United Methodist minister in Florence, South Carolina. Bert was a retired Baptist minister. And these two gentlemen took me under their wings post-ordination and taught me how to be a rabbi serving a community. On behalf of Muslims for Peace, I hosted and emceed the celebration of the Prophet Muhammad at Rutgers University. I taught pastoral care at the Lexington Theologic Seminary. The rabbi taught Christian ministerial students how to be Christian ministers. My favorite, Mark Johnson, a Baptist minister in Lexington, wanted me to do his wedding, very close friends, but I had to start the wedding by saying he really wanted Jesus to do his wedding, but I was the best available Jew. Just weeks ago, I helped at Second Baptist Church in Asbury Park, a Black Baptist church. I helped ordain Kerwin Webb as a Baptist minister. At no time, and I don't give you that resume to say anything other, with all of these varieties of opportunities and experience, I've never felt threatened. I've never once felt that I compromised my Judaism to help someone else be faithful in their tradition. I've never felt that I needed to explain to them or explain away. And so faith is absolute, and it's the building blocks that help us change the world. But we've got to dive into our traditions and learn so we know what the possibilities are, so that we don't ever say, well, that's not who I am, or I don't do that. I will tell you that I was 22 before I realized, when someone was quoting Isaiah, that he was Jewish. I'd always heard Christian pastors quote from these people. So I just assumed that it was a Christian text. So, if we want to talk about what's going to save the world, we need to talk about learning who we are so that we can do the work. And it's never more important than as we approach this weekend, the ultimate day of destruction and redemption in the Jewish world. Tisha B'Av, the 9th day of Av. The first temple was destroyed on Tisha B'Av. The second temple was destroyed on Tisha B'Av. Europe, the number of expulsions of Jews from European countries on Tisha B'Av. The Third Reich announced the final solution on Tisha B'Av. People picked that date to rub salt in the wound of a day in mourning, a day that we are grieving the loss of so much. And then we read the story from the Midrash. A couple years after the temple was destroyed, many years after, the sages are walking through the ruins and they notice a fox emerge from what was the Holy of Holies. And many of them start to sob and say, it's bad enough, it's horrible enough it was destroyed, but now it's defiled with an unkosher animal. And Rabbi Akiva started laughing. I say, why are you laughing? And he says, you know, we were promised that there would be destruction and renewal. And here it is before us. Out of the ruins came life. And it may not have been the way that it was, but it's new life. The rabbis teach us that Tisha B'Av is also the day that the Messiah will vest. It's the day that the Messianic age becomes a part of our common conversation. The phoenix will rise from the ashes and give us new life. Akiva understood, as we reinvent, as we need to remember that we can't grow trying to get things our way, trying to maintain the way things always were. We have to be open to renewal and to seeing things through new eyes, to evolving our souls. Elijah speaks of the kol damama, the still small voice. It's not the power of the hammer that makes us do what's right. It's the still small voice within us. It's that piece of faith that makes us think, Are we doing what's right, not just for me, but for everyone? Do I understand what can be right for other people and not just for me? Litakein et ha'olam, the whole olam, not just our part of it. We can only lead when we're secure enough in our faith, not our answers to questions, but our faith journeys, that we can hear and help each other without judgment and without fear, to be able to look at every stranger who comes our way and know that we can see God staring back at us. When we can do that, and when we can walk assuredly in our security, our faithful security, and our true agape love for each other, that's the year when this weekend's horrific holiday will become the day of ultimate blessing for the world. Amen. Amen. Audrey?
Shabbat Shalom. I'm the surprise announcement person. I have no written announcements, so here's what I think I know. Feel free to correct me. So next week's services are at 6 o'clock. The week after, August 19th, will be the first service when Rabbi Mark and his wife Lori Bernard are residents of Harrisburg. So please come out to services. There's going to be a special elneg to celebrate their moving here to Harrisburg. We're expecting a great sermon, too, by the way. The
music will be good.
There's a temple picnic at Fort Hunter Park on August 28th from noon to 2:30 or 3 o'clock. It's free to members. Food will be provided. There will be games. We'll have a lot of fun. Bruce Feldman is going to be one of the grilled masters, so come on out and join the fun. Sunday school starts, religious school starts September 11th, and we look forward to having a lot of families join us at the picnic and enroll in religious school. So thank you very much. It's great seeing everybody, and Shabbat Shalom.
You did great. Thank you. Once again, Sarah, I was told that you had a beautiful voice. I listened, I watched on YouTube. You have a beautiful voice. You are incredible to work with. I appreciate that. More than you can possibly know. And Conrad, you rock. So.
Wait, sorry, Rob.
Okay. We are here because of those who have stood in these pews in this world, who have helped us learn to appreciate the blessings that life has to offer. And so we will continue on page 586. Those who can or choose, I'll ask that you rise physically or spiritually for Aleinu.
Aleinu l'shabeach le'adon ha'kol, le'tzid gidula le'yotzer breshit, shelo asanu k'goyei ha'aratzot, ve'lo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chalkeinu kachem, ve'gor aleinu k'chol ha'monah.
people have left our hands but never our hearts. They continue to walk with us, to teach us, and to live with us in our dreams, in our work, in the way in which we love, the way in which we take the legacies that they have left to us and move them forward. This week we recall the yahrzeits of Alec Cohen, Lizzie Dealham, Johanna Garfield, Seymour Goldberg, Paul Gorley, Stephen M. Harpster, Bernice Ibsen, Emma Israel, Gail Holt Koppelman, Abraham J. Lehrman, Edith Marcus, Sadie H. Maneker, Herman J. Nathan, Shirley S. Siglin, Arthur Siegel, and Harvey Tessman. Are there other annual yahrzeits that are being observed tonight? We are in Shloshim for Alice Bloom. Zichronam livracha. May the memories that they have left to us always lead us to blessing. The words of Kaddish are on page 598. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei rabba be'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei v'chai yachon u'vyom echon uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael b'galau v'izman kari v'imru amen. Yehei shmei rabba mevorach le'olam u'lamei almaya Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'tchomam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yit'aleh v'yit'alal shemei d'kudsha brichu le'la min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shloma rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Osei shalom b'mromav Hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Please be seated. So we greeted the Sabbath bride. We're going to rejoice in this marriage and this unity that we get for this day and hope to renew it every time we can come together. We're going to close on page 129 with Dodi Lee, and then we will continue with Motzi and Kiddush as we prepare to greet each other before we leave.
Dodi li va'ani lo haroeh bashoshanim Dodi li va'ani lo haroeh bashoshanim mi'ola min hamidbar Shoshanim Dodi li va'ani lo haroeh bashoshanim libabtini achuti kala libabtini kala libabtini achuti kala libabtini kala Dodi li va'ani lo haroeh bashoshanim Dodi li va'ani lo haroeh bashoshanim uri zafon uvoetan uri zafon Dodi li va'ani lo haroeh bashoshanim Dodi li va'ani lo haroeh bashoshanim.
I am my beloved, and my beloved is mine. And point of personal privilege, my beloved is watching. Hi, Lori. so we are going to, now, how many of you consider yourselves still to be children? Everybody here is somebody's child, right? So anybody that would want to come and join for Motzi, any children should join me at the bottom for Motzi, okay? You're brave. Okay. So, oh, that's right, you don't have the microphone with. Okay, you can chant Kiddush, then come join us.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddishanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho v'yahava uvratzon hinhilanu Zikaron l'maaseh v'reshit Ki hu yom tehillah l'mikra'e kodesh Zecher l'tziat Mitzrayim Ki vanu v'charta v'yotanu kidashta mikol Shabbat kodshecha be'ahava uvratzon hinhaltanu Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh haShabbat. Amen.
I think it's grape juice, so you can sip. Yeah, you got to take the mask off, though, first. Okay.
It's okay.
Is it grape juice? Good. Okay. So now, if you want to join us, we'll just all do Motzi down here together, okay? I hope you guys are proud, right? Yeah. Good. So, beautiful challah. It smells so good, too. So, you want to hold the challah, too? This isn't child labor violation, right? All right. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. The Te'avon, go ahead and take a pinch. So may we move from strength to strength, from celebration to celebration. As we travel from this place, may we have renewed ties, perhaps met new people, shared in the lesson of being. May this day of Shabbat renew us so that we have the direction and the focus. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Anybody would like challah, please? You want some more? It rocks. It's great for French toast. Okay. You are amazing. Thank you. It's okay. I'll show you that my wife texted me in the middle.
Love the sermon.
Don't decorate.